Hello, it's Gemma here, and I love cupcakes, obviously. I'm Cupcake Gemma, but sometimes a cupcake just isn't quite enough, and when that happens, I call on the power of the Giant Cupcake. And I'm going to show you how to make one. So one thing you're definitely going to need if you want to make a giant cupcake is a giant cupcake tin. If you don't have this, you're really going to struggle. And all I've done here is grease it with butter really generously, and then I've dusted flour all over it really thoroughly. You've got to make sure it's really thorough, especially when you've got an old one like this one, because your cake will get stuck otherwise. Right, so in a bowl with a sieve over it, I'm going to put 375 grams of self-raising flour, and the same amount of caster sugar, so 375 grams. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And then just wiggle that through. Right, so that's all my dry ingredients. And now I need to add 375 grams of soft unsalted butter. And now I need to add 6 large free-range eggs, so 3. And then just pop that into your mixer. Turn it on to a low speed. And once it's all come together, turn it up to a medium to high speed and let it go for about 60 seconds. Right, so once it's had a minute going, just turn it right down to a minimum. And I've got 4.5 tablespoons of whole milk here with about half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm just going to pour that in as well. Turn it up to a medium speed. Right, that is ready. So just get rid of your paddle. Then get your giant cupcake tin, which is all prepared with butter and flour. And obviously the two sides are a bit of a different size. So this one's a lot bigger than this one. So just as a guideline, just fill it up to about 3/4 of the way full. There's no need to level it out or anything, that'll just happen in the oven. Just get rid of that. And then you need to bake that at 170 degrees Celsius for 55 to 60 minutes, or until a skewer comes out clean when you stab it in the middle. Right, so it's had 55 minutes and I think it's ready now. Ooh, yummy. Looking good. I'll just get my skewer and give it a stab. Perfectly clean, so this guy's ready. I'm just going to leave it to cool and I'm going to make my buttercream. So once they've cooled down, just trim the top of the bottom off and the bottom of the top off to level it out so that they're ready to ice. Now it's the best bit, and that's decorating it. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to recommend that you get before you go on to giant cupcake decoration, and that is this guy, which is a turntable. I spent many years without one of these, and when I finally got one, I wondered why on earth it had taken me so long. This really will make things a lot easier for you, so sort yourself out with one of those. And another thing is a cake board. Now this is an 8-inch cake board. This just makes it much easier to handle once you've iced it, because if you don't have this, then you're going to be trying to pick up a buttercreamy giant cupcake and it's going to get really messy. So try and pick yourself up one of these. So the first thing to do is to decorate the base of the cupcake, and the easiest way of doing that is to do it upside down. So I'm just going to pop a bit of greaseproof paper on my turntable and just flip this guy right over. Put him in the middle of your turntable so he's not going whoa like that when you spin him around. And I've got two palette knives here. One is a straight big one and one is a cranked small one, both of which are ideal for this. And in an essential kit, I'd recommend you get these two. So I want my cupcake case to be white because that's traditional. So I've got my white buttercream here. I'm just gonna load up my palette knife. And when I'm decorating a giant cake, I always work like this, so on the kind of opposite side to the hand I'm icing with. The reason for that is that way I can control it a lot better. So as you can see, I'm going to turn it around like this. If I did it on the other side, I'd be really awkward and it would make for a really messy cake. So that's my top tip. Without scraping the crumbs off, just gently like blob it on basically. And you want to be quite generous at this point because you don't want too many crumbs to pop off. I'm kind of rocking my palette knife backwards and forwards really gently just to smooth it out. So this is my base coat, if you like. And then I'm going to use my small palette knife to make impressions to make it look a little bit like a crimped cupcake cake. And the way that I do that is to draw, like really gently draw it up from the bottom to the top, not trying to scrape the icing off. So I don't want to have it at this angle. I want to have it just brushing it almost, brushing up in really straight lines and turning all the time just so that I can go all the way around the cake. Right, so I've gone all the way around and now I just need to make the bottom sticky. So I'm just going to draw any bits that have kind of blobbed over the side into the middle. I don't want to cover this like loads because otherwise it's going to slip around on my board. I just want a little bit so that it sticks. And then I'm going to get my board. So this is, like I said, it's an 8-inch board. And I'm going to put it as in the middle as I possibly can, upside down. So I'm happy. That's done, but now I need to put it the right way up. So I'm going to put one hand firmly on the bottom, or the top, and I'm going to get my other hand under the turntable, lift it up, and then very carefully but confidently flip it over. This will now be the middle of the cake, so I want icing in there, so I'm going to just grab another blob with my palette knife and just spread it on and cover the whole thing completely. And now I need to put the top on, and this is pretty tricky because the edges are really thin, so if you pick it up with your hands you might risk knocking the edges off. So I'm going to use my palette knife. I'm just going to slide it under and just steady it with the other hand. And then try and put it in the middle if you can. And then pull out your palette knife. Ta-da! If it feels a bit wonky, just wiggle it about until you feel like it's not wonky. Right, you can decorate your giant cupcake any colour you like, but I'm going to do mine pink and blue. And I've used colour paste to colour mine in ice blue and a tiny bit of egg yellow because I can. And I'm going to use my palette knife, but what we're going to do first is do a crumb coat. Now a crumb coat is really useful when you're decorating big cakes with buttercream because you might have noticed when you were doing the bottom bit that crumbs came up and kind of mixed in with the icing and then made it all speckly. So a crumb coat is a thin layer of icing which basically locks in the crumbs, and then you refrigerate that so that it's really nice and set, and then you can put another fresh layer of buttercream on and make it all neat and tidy. So really simple, just get your buttercream nice and smooth. With this, you want to spread it on quite close, and it doesn't matter if crumbs get picked up, that's the point. You're going to lock those in. So we're just doing a really thin layer all over that top section. And it doesn't need to be even or neat or anything like that, it just needs to be all covered. I reckon that's good. So I'm just going to put that in the fridge for at least 20 minutes, up to an hour, until it's all nice and set, and then I'm going to come back and do a smooth coat. Okay, so he's been in the fridge for a little while and he's firmed up, so I'm going to carry on. So just get your palette knife, make sure your icing's nice and smooth, and away you go. So once you've covered him completely and there's no gaping holes, I'm just going to get my palette knife and pop it on the top, and then really gently but very smoothly start spinning, and I'm going to keep my palette knife going over the last line that I made so that it ends up looking like a swirl. Right, so that's all lovely and finished, and while it's still sticky I'm going to decorate it. So I've got some little coloured balls here and some flowers, and I'm just going to throw them at it basically. And then I think some flowers as well. So he's not finished just yet. It's still a little bit scrappy, but don't worry, there is something you can do to fix that. You're going to need 2 small piping bags, and I've got one with a PME 57S nozzle, which is called an ambidextrous leaf nozzle, and then I've got this one which is PME 18, and that's just a big hole basically. And we're going to use these to cover up all these naughty bald bits and scrappy bits that even I do, so it's going to look perfect any minute. I'm going to use this nozzle, flat side to the cake, to wiggle up and down like a little ribbon, just to cover all of those scrappy bits that I made. So just zigzag it from top to bottom, covering both the top and the bottom bit. And try and keep it nice and steady. So that's the middle bit done, but we're not quite finished because we need to make it pretty around the bottom as well, and that's what this guy's for, the round nozzle I showed you earlier. So I'm going to squeeze and go right and then go back on myself and just keep on going back on myself. And you end up with these really pretty beaded blobs. It's probably got a technical name that I don't know, but I call it beading. Done! So there it is, the giant cupcake. It's just like a real cupcake, but it's better and bigger. And it makes a really great centerpiece at your party. And they taste really good as well. It's got really nice crumb on it, and that buttercream is so creamy. This is a really delicious cake, and you should definitely make it. If you like this recipe and you want to learn how to make more yummy stuff, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking on the link up there. There's a new recipe every Thursday, and it's brilliant. And if you have a suggestion on something you'd like me to make, then go to cupcakejemma.com, and there's a special suggestion form for you to fill in, and I'll have a look at all of those. And in the meantime, I'm going to try and find some friends to eat this with me, because otherwise I'm going to eat it all by myself. So see you later.